Welcome to the Elder Brew House. I'm your host, Noble, joined by my co-hosts, I see Mike and JK Dubs.
Nope.
We have a wonderful surprise guest today. I would like to welcome Thunder Conductor to the stream.
What's up? What's up, y'all? My name is TTC, aka the Thunder Conductor.
So to start off our day here with this thing, we're going a little bit more in depth from our last podcast here, going into more of the nitty gritty of politicking in tournament cEDH settings outside, more in depth with that instead of how we kind of just touched base on general politicking in Commander. And then, so the big thing that really comes into play with these with politics in these tournament settings is it could be a make or break on that game, right? You could go from being the underdog to all of a sudden winning that game if you're able to politic right. Do you have any like examples of that possibly happening with you there, Thunder?
So I've been on a little hiatus when it comes to tournament games, so no recent examples when it comes to tournament play. But when it comes to make or break examples, I would just reference like check out the channels that are playing those live gameplays of like actual live games, listening to everything being said, the cadence of the words, just everything is so much more intentional. I know we'll get into it, but one thing that just makes me excited in general about this conversation is that at the end of the day, like there's so many small like micro words, micro tones, micro things that are happening at such a high level, especially in the tournament scene. So like as you all watch these videos that see a live example of good and poor politicking, just watch out for that. But no live example, no real examples for me as of lately being on a little bit of a tournament hiatus.
So going into that,
Alright.
I do have a tournament myself personally. I'm going to be going to actually this next week or so from the time of this recording on the 12th of April. We're definitely going to be seeing how we play with that with some of these newer decks that possibly the meta hasn't quite touched on, where I'm really trying to get into a little bit of a deep dive into that politics where combat isn't really necessarily a huge thing, but some decks where you're able to kind of like, hey, let me hit you, I give you something kind of and it sometimes people don't quite understand that when you hit them, we're going to be off to the races here. But being able to kind of get that little pass through kind of makes the deck just kind of grease itself up there. Big one that a lot of people are familiar with, like Ragavan. It's like, hey, I just need this little bit of treasure here. Can you let me just get this Ragavan through? I don't necessarily.
Heck no.
And that's a lot of people. And sometimes it's like if you know what that card is on top and you don't want it there, you could go, okay, maybe I'll let you hit me just to get rid of that card because you want to get that slightly bit deeper. If you're playing Glarb and you know what those top two cards are, and then all of a sudden there's a different thing and you're like, oh, maybe I don't need that card, and you don't really want to waste tapping to surveil it. Now Ragavan goes, I'll hit you, and you're like, okay, it's a land on top. They ain't getting shit out of it.
Can I don't mean to stop your flow, but can I offer another perspective?
Sure.
One thing I say to a lot of people when I'm politicking, and the reason why I get away with a lot of politicking myself, is I bring so much logic to the table that people like, dang, bro, like even if I wanted to like disagree, it's logical. You know what I'm saying? And so the tough thing about the Ragavan swing, the noble turn one Ragavan into a turn two swing, or like a turn two dashed out Ragavan, is there's really very minimal upside unless you're against like a ROG side deck where they're going to win and say like, hey, I am color fucked. I need a specific color. Can I make this treasure to hold up interaction? Unless I have that conversation with one of my opponents, most times players get a little, I feel a level of frustration from them because they're like, can I just come in with a Ragavan? I'm like, you're doing damage to me. You're gaining resources. You have the potential of hitting a bomb out of my deck. And there's zero upside from this except allowing you to do the thing. But we're playing cEDH. I'm not here, or TEDH or CEDH. I'm not here to make sure you do the thing. I make sure I'm doing the thing that's best for me. So yes, I will trade my archivist with that. No, you can't get food for free. Hit the person with a Mandork, see if they trade with you. And that's not to say like it's vain to put out that political move. But I will say in advance that I'm sure as we delve into this, sometimes less is more. So like sometimes you have, like, it's like, say if you start a game out with 10 tokens and each political phrase you say is using up 1 token, there's a possibility where you can use up too many tokens, and by the time it really counts, people are tired of hearing you because every action has been a political thing. And so it's like, do I want to use up, sometimes it's like, do I want to use up my 1 token on a Ragavan swing, or do I want to just kind of turn it sideways? Like, how bad do you want your mana dork? 9 times out of 10, they say, I want my mana dork. But sometimes you get the people say, I'm a trade. I don't want you to get my library. So that's just another perspective that I found with the Ragavan turn 1, turn 2 swing. It's all downside for TTC.
I mean, I do agree with that, though, that one side of it is like, I need this treasure, because if let's say that guy just discarded a brainstorm into his graveyard, now brain freeze into his graveyard, and any turn now he's gonna have
Breach.
that breach.
100%.
Okay, yeah, I'll do this so you have that treasure, but you need to show me you have this interaction before I agree to it. That way you have that guarantee that this interaction is for that breach line,
Yeah, and sometimes some players don't, if I can even add on to what you said, I love what you said there. Sometimes like players don't enjoy the invasiveness of show me the card in your hand, be like, hey, I have a white spell that we all know about, and they play their second land and they got like a blue black, and then they played a red green, they're 5 colors. Like, I didn't draw a source of mana so I can protect us on that turn. Like, and you just give enough context clues where like, okay, he most likely has a silence in hand, and he's like nudging that, or it may be like a Ormshan or whatever it may be, but it's like, hey, I'm kind of fucked on color fixing. I want to take a play for the table to hold up this piece of interaction. Can you let me through to get this treasure? Like kind of adding that, because some people, like for me, I don't like to get bullied into showing my hand. You know what I'm saying? It's so tough. But if a person knows how to communicate well, like when sometimes they come a little more aggressive, I'm like, I know, like I'm not gonna get bullied into showing my hand off. But that's different from each player. Everyone has different, cadences when it comes to that. But I love your point, though. It's important to communicate with the table. Hey, like, I'm trying to hold up interaction. Can you help me do that?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, definitely. And then there's always the fun time of if you're able to bluff it.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because you got to think the other person that you're trying to deal with, they're also at that table with you, and sometimes those politics, if you can kind of get the person that you're trying to politic with, like, hey, show them in a way that it's obviously a bluff to that person, and they go, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I've had that where I've done, I have another point on what you had said, but I'm gonna finish this thought here. With showing, it's like, look, I have I have something for this, but it might not be necessarily like super obvious. Like, oh, he has his commander out or whatever, and instead of having maybe a bounce spell or a kill spell, it's like, oh, it's an activated ability. He goes to attack, and let's say I pull out something a little off meta, maybe a Tail's End, or or a Stifle, and it's just like,
or a Trick Bind, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Consigned to memory, where it's like, it doesn't stop the problem, but if he thought he was going to go off right now, he's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of like you can like push the problem down the road, and that might be all you need is that one turn cycle. I know you're gonna hate it. I have one deck that you'll absolutely hate with that, TC. I run telepathy in a few of my decks. I have
Telepathy, speaking of, is actually a very interesting pseudo-political piece, because then you know what everyone's got.
Oh,
I've
I've
they
turned
start talking amongst themselves and trying to figure out how to play around each other. It's really interesting.
I run an enchantment deck with the new Amanatu, and it's in there. It's a weird stacks piece. And nobody would consider it a stacks piece, but now you go, oh, this guy's got counterspells, that guy's got counterspells. Now everybody's super hesitant with how they play their stuff, because now they need to make it slows the game down tremendously. I think it's one of the most underrated non-stacks pieces you could ever have in blue.
Yeah.
Because you could sit there and
okay.
you're the only player that doesn't have to reveal their hand. It's the other three. So you could sit there and bluff a counterspell the whole game and have nothing. And you could politic that as like, look, that guy's got a counterspell. Look, that guy's got a counterspell. You sure you want to do that? And you can kind of, now everybody has that information, and you're the only one with something hidden. And to me, that's interesting. It throws kind of a wrench in everybody's politics.
I think it definitely does, like, especially because I tell people all the time, one of the strongest, the reason I'm not always as quick to leverage revealing my hand is because one of my most powerful moves I use when I politic is hidden information. I use, for example, another great politiker I've heard nothing but great about his politics, and got to play against him a couple times, Golden Sabretooth. This man is a fantastic politiker, and on the flip side, in comparison to my style, he is not afraid to reveal cards in his hand. You know what I'm saying? And that is,
he is a smooth talker.
He's a smooth talker, and he will show you, I have the Swords of Plowshare. And by saying I have the Swords of Plowshare or I have the Force of Will, he's able to use it multiple times. And a lot of times when it ends up happening, you need that one player to say, bro, he's just used it twice. Make him use it.
Yeah,
like,
force it.
Like, at that, force him to use it, because right now he just used the counters. He just put an uncounterable spell in the stack, which is revealed information. And on the flip side, like, there's me, like, both are effective strategies. You gotta learn yourself within this, you know, like, like for me on the flip side, I'm not going to reveal any information because I'm the type of player who takes notes on the side of my deck. So, like, you reveal that Swords to Plowshare, something comes up. Most people, or some people, will forget, and then something comes up where it's spot move. I'm looking at the player like, dude, swords, like, what are you doing? He said, I don't know, this is a good time. I'm like, bro, like what was the point of revealing the swords if we're not going to use it? You know what I'm saying? Because, like, that's where I holding people accountable. It's like I love that. Thank you so much for revealing that Swords to Plowshare to deter someone else from pushing an early win. But now the table knows you have a swords. What are you going to do about that? And some people are able to say, nope, I'm going to hold on to this sword a little bit longer. I think I'll have a better window. They know I have a sword, so I know they won't push for a win. But on the flip side, you know, like, you just got to, I like to use the word, how strong-willed are you to stand to 10 toes deep on what you believe within your politicking? And that, the hidden versus unhidden information is crazy. And so when you talk about telepathy to bring things full circle, that's a crazy card to go against, because it's just like, for me, if I go against somebody that plays a telepathy, I said, y'all, we are not using any interaction. We have a hidden information. This brother has all the information. Pass on all this. Make it. I'm telling y'all, like, pass on all this. Make him use it, because what ends up happening is we use up our interaction in our hands, and he knows when the window is clear. Now he can cast his Grand Browser. Now he can cast his Silence. We don't want that to happen. Pass priority. Unless we're losing the game, pass priority, dude. Like, we know if we could actually go for a win or not. We can all see each other's hands. Pass priority. Make him deal with it. But that's my style. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the hidden and unhidden information is such an amazing thing to leverage in cEDH.
So, going kind of into, like, being able to use that politics for that win, what about if maybe somebody might have a win and trying to push the table to a draw? How can you, how have you seen, you know, politics being used to pull a draw? I personally have had that happen to me in it, where we were kind of turtling, you know, everybody was stuck down because wonderful telepathy, where we're, you know, a tournament setting, you have a time limit, you know, and it's like, well, can we just do a draw, and then that gives us time to kind of get ready for the next game? You know, that's a little bit more of a common thing nowadays with this mid-range hell that the meta is currently in. Sometimes that mid-range turns into the long game, and it's like, hey, maybe let's just draw. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to eat. And trying to use politics as a way to just accept the draw instead of, oh, maybe I can get this in like a turn or two. Like, I did that where, you know, I had in that deck with telepathy, I had telepathy out, I had painful quandary out, and I had the ability to copy it. Essentially, it locked the entire table down. But all my instant win cons, my fastest had been exiled, where it got put into the graveyard, and I was like, oh, I can reanimate it, and somebody just, oh, I'm playing Tetramos, and I'm just gonna spot removal that with a Soul Guide Lantern, you know, where it's like, now I can't reanimate that, and that was what the one guaranteed win con I have. Now I have this huge stacks piece, and just nobody wants to cast cards because, I can't play my Underworld Breach because I'll die to the life loss because I have no cards in hand because of LAB. You know, and it's like, it really locked down the table having two painful quandaries, and they're just like, well, can we just take the draw? Because we got 5 minutes left, and instead of wasting our 5 minutes hoping the one guy that's locking down the table is going to win, or are we just going to waste 5 minutes and do nothing, you know? And then at that point, it's like...
stressing our brains out,
Yeah, and it was like, well, we can, you know, do that, and I proceed to... I'm like, well, give me 3 turns. If I find nothing in 3 turns, fine, I'll take the draw. So we went around the table 3 times. I drew 3 lands, and I'm like, you know what, fine, I'll take the draw because we're down to a minute and a half. It's like, if I can't get this win in 3 turns, there's no point in wasting more time. You know what I mean?
I love your example. I'll say this as somebody who's been a very heavy observer of the evolution of tournaments. It's been a while since I've done a tournament, but like what I've been seeing is that drawing has become such a powerful political tool, because at the end of the day, it goes down to the logics. 1 point is better than 0 points. You know what I'm saying? And your opponent, who would get 5 points, now only got 1 point. So it's just mathematically, it honestly, when it comes to the question of like in the mindset of like, you know, politicking into a position where a draw is acceptable, it's just like, that's really, I find like that is the best move. There's like, no matter how I look at it from any position as I'm analyzing it, like I would analyze anything at the end of the day, is taking the draw is sometimes the most powerful move, unless a tournament organizer changes it where a draw is only 0 points. Then at the point, everyone is forced to jam it out and box it out for those 5 points, because we're trying to inch towards that top 16. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely, like, it is so, it doesn't, like, it's not my favorite thing, but I'd be wrong, in my opinion, from my perspective, as just a very keen observer. It's just like, sometimes it just would be wrong to not take the draw. Even I am a person where I just like to duke it out. Let's just figure it out. But it's just, if you're trying to make it the top 16, you got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough. That's on the tournament organizers, honestly, in my opinion, to fix that. But it's right now, that is the best political decision. Take the draw. Unless you can't points into a top 16, take the draw on game 1, game 2, and see if you can get the win on game 3 through 5, depending on how large the tournament is. And I say that in a very sad tone, because I'm like, dang, I want to win.
Oh, yeah.
My little weigh in on that with the tournament draws and all of that. Speaking of tournament organizers, it's actually a thing that I've noticed, at least locally, they are starting to do exactly what you said. They are actually making draws worth 0 points to push for that true top 16 win.
Yeah.
Versus politicking away to top 16, because that ended up, at least locally, that ended up resulting in a lot of stagnant top 16s where it was pretty much the same decks, like TNT, Skinnin, etc., etc., etc. You know, the meta decks of the format, which I want to touch on meta just a little bit. I believe that that's a fairly relative term, where meta is only defined as it is right now because people have ignored the new decks because they are so used to the current decks of the meta.
Right, true. Yeah, I mean, they have results.
Yeah.
I think if I can even add on to what you're saying there, brother, like honestly, when I think about the meta, I've heard people say this and I agree with this position. The meta is of course we have like online data, so it is a little bit more homogenized for across our whole cEDH bracket. But a lot of times the meta is where you're in, like your LGS. It's your play group that you play with every week. It's your LGS. It's, if you're a tournament grinder, it's the people that you see most often at those tournaments. And so I say that both as a thing, like sometimes the meta can be inconsistent when it comes to what interaction they use, what's they playing against, and all the other things. But at the same time, provide some consistency for what I like to call meta busters to come in there and show up and show out. And it takes those courageous pilots to say, you know what, I know TNT's the best Sans red list, and I know Blue Farm is the best Sans green list, and I see what all the or I guess some people say Clue Farm too, Wordnog and Urina. Like we could have conversations about that all day, but I think the beautiful thing about acknowledging a meta, whether it be something you see locally or online from EDH Top 16, is that if you do seek creativity, don't limit yourself to the meta, in my opinion, purely because we are in the only competitive format where you can play a deck that may not be the top of the top deck and see results of it because of what we're talking about today, politicking. In no other format can you leverage your words to make, whether you want to use the word suboptimal or deck that doesn't have only good stuff inside of it. I can use my words to close the gap. And I say that from experience. I'm going to give the hugest shout out to my channel, Thunder Conductor, no space between the R and C. If you see a lot of my gameplays, I'm playing Sign of the Erd Dragon. I'm playing like these wacky decks that, yes, I made them very good. I'm a great brewer, I'm a great pilot, but it's my words most of the time that get me across the finish line in comparison to my opponents. It's not that I'm playing the best deck, is that I've honed my political skills to inch me out across great pilots, using great decks. But yeah, I definitely hear you there when it comes to the conversation about what is the meta and, being courageous enough to brew outside of that and find ways to break the meta. Not just as being a stacks player, maybe being a turbo player or finding ways to get rid of those draw engines. But yeah.
And that's we're kind of similar in the sense of where we're trying to find new off-meta things and trying to find ways to brew outside of the current meta to come up with something new.
Yeah.
With Noble here, he's been recently plugging with Terra and a few other of the new ones that have been spoiled, testing them out, trying to get them going, and they're starting to gain traction where people are like, I've seen this somewhere before. This isn't something we should necessarily keep like, oh, it's nothing, like they're actually starting, people are starting to get wary, and it's like this, it's just something new.
That's
Even
real.
with like some of the other new ones from Tarkir, people are talking about, like Hevel and Codis, the 3-matter one, where that's one of the ones that I've been messing with. And after 2-3 games, people are like, oh, this thing actually kind of goes off kind of quick. Maybe we discounted it a little too early because it's a once per turn kind of thing. It's like all it needs.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
100%.
I think people like to disrespect decks a lot.
Oh, 100%,
I mean,
because it's not the meta.
Yeah, I mean, like, what was it? Magda was disrespected almost into the ground.
That's so crazy. It
Right?
was.
It
It
still
was.
is. It still
Kennen,
is.
when Higher started brewing Kennen, you just brought up Kennen, was it Noble and Kennen? I remember hearing podcasters, CDH podcasters saying Kennen can never be CDH viable. You can't do this big flip strategy, da da da. And I know it's not pure big flips nowadays, but dude, Kennen is still a monster. People just had to take the time to hone it, dude. Magda, what you just brought up, JK. I can't imagine not respecting Magda in the pod, but there was a time where that happened.
I just had my last tournament. Everybody was disrespecting Magda. Magda took first. That is wild to me. Like,
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
here, real quick, I'm gonna tell you the 4 pods, right? The 4 people in that pod. Seat 1, Kennen. Seat 2, Malcolm Timna.
That's okay.
Seat 3, Magda. Seat 4 is the wild one. Zerda. Oros.
Nice.
Infinite mana. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like you had 3 decks that love going infinite with mana, and 2 of them are running blue, and you guys let a mono red, which in most games, like, that's kind of unheard of, and it's just Magda has the tech to be able to squeeze out through all of that control, all of that, stuff, because nobody runs things to counter that Magda's ability. It's like,
Activated ability, yeah.
how many people run Stifle? How many people run Tails End? Or a stacks piece that stops activated abilities outside of Grand Abolisher?
Cursed, yeah, and cursed totems and
First
whatever.
totem, I've been seeing it. It's been gaining a lot of traction lately, other than Tivit. Before it was just Tivit. Like, Tivit, maybe a few other decks would run it because it was an artifact, and it played Tivit, Urza, a few others. But it was outside of those couple artifact-themed decks, it wasn't really seen. Now, I've seen...
You have to almost.
You do. Another one that I personally like as an enchantment that does a similar thing is Suppression Field. 2 mana, it's in white. Activated abilities cost 2 more, and that's all activated abilities. Doesn't matter if they're playing a
Fetch lands and
Planeswalker,
everything. Yeah.
fetch lands, anything. If it's not a mana ability, costs 2 more. Oh, you want to fetch your land? Go pay 2 mana. Nuts. And it really slows down some of these the top decks where you have Kennen. It stops Kennen lines outside of if they're able to, for some reason, running ancient Ancient, where they're able to triple their mana, because then they can kind of push past it. But just that single one extra mana, it's like, well, you're breaking even. There's no excess for you to go infinite with, And same with Thrasios. Oh, let's pay 6 to activate Thrasios. Unless you're infinite mana, doesn't matter.
100%. Yeah, honestly, I think when it comes to the whole Magda situation, I think that if you got a local meta Magda pilot who be kicking tail, I'm gonna tell y'all to the day I die, don't leave home without opposition agent, don't leave home without bowmasters, and do not leave home without curse totem if you're really worried about being a mid-range deck. Now, if you turbo win, just pray that they don't drop a stacks piece that you got to worry about. But if you're trying to play that mid-range game and you're trying to make sure Magda doesn't just, because the thing is, though, they don't put spells in the stack. They just need treasures, which, they really didn't even get hurt by the Dockside ban. They just became less turbo, and they just had to do their regular kind of fast to mid-range plan that includes casting no spell under Magda and a couple dwarves that nobody wants to counter those. But it makes you
so painful.
Right. Like, it makes you want to run Toxic Deluge and Cyclonic Rift and all these other cards that some decks are choosing to get off of because they want to be more action oriented. They want to be more proactive about their own game plan. But Magda is one of those commanders where I sit, like, the minute they, like, you always, like, one thing I always do is, like, at the end step before my turn, or before the end step before the Magda's turn, or those decks that can get out of hand really fast, I just do a treasure count. What is their potential treasure for next turn? Maybe, like, they got some haste or some crazy thing in hand, but, like, what are we looking at? And they'll be like, okay, they got 3 treasures right now. They can make 1 more. Oh, wait, we forgot about this. They got 5 treasures next turn. There's somebody, like, that's where the conversation starts. That's where the politicking starts right there. Because I find most people lose to Magda because they don't start talking till they put that Magda activation on the stack.
Yep, and it's too late at that point.
It's too late. If you're on the end step, you take the time to say, hey, hold, and this is where, like, player IQ and intelligence comes up. You take the time to say, hold on, this Sisay or this Magda player got X, they about to untap with a Bloom Tender, a Sisay player is about to untap with a Bloom Tender, or, oh no, this Magda player is about to untap with 3 treasures, go to combat, make 5. I don't care if they don't have any good attacks, they just need these 5 treasures to start chaining off. You know what I'm saying? Like, because of maybe some other board actions, or I think it's 10 treasures they need to guaranteed win because they go get Roaming Throne and something else. I'm not sure of the full Magda lines.
Yep.
If you know, check me. Check me if I don't know, but I don't play Magda. But at the end of the day, that's where you check it. And a lot of times what I find is when you put the pressure on, you start having a conversation with these 3, the Magda player will tell themselves, or they'll, like, say, I can't do anything. That's where they start, like, some players will just start revealing their hands, and then you have the conversation, well, you're not pulling from your hand, you're pulling from your deck. And more by giving them room, and, like, by putting that, not attacking them, but putting a little bit of pressure, I find a lot of players will, like, end up telling on themselves. And it's really telling how close they are to win. Because some players are like, no, physically it is impossible. Even if I were to get the best 2 things in my deck, I cannot win next turn. There's not 1 card. And then that lets you know, like, in your head, you're out loud, your mouth, you saying, like, oh, okay, all right, whatever, guys, let's chill out, just hold up your removal. But in your inside, you're like, okay, good, I have 1 more turn. I need to look for this, these things, because now I have that new information, because they've given up information about their deck, because they could have just been quiet and be like, remove what y'all want to remove. Magda's gonna Magda no matter what. I don't gotta say nothing. You know what I'm saying? Which I find those are the best Magda pilots. They say, remove what you want. Magda gonna Magda either way. That's a 2-mana commander. But it is, dang, that's a great deck. I cannot believe that was slept on before. It's such a great deck to this day.
Yeah. To piggyback off of what you said about Magda and how they start saying, oh, hey, I can't win this way and blah, 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 that kind of thing, where they try to deflect the politicking away from them being the threat. I actually, just a couple of weeks ago, played a game with Chris from TPM. He was on Magda, and it was the first time that I had actually faced a Magda deck in 6 years. And the first one that I faced post-ban. And afterwards, he was like, dude, if your Mayhem Devil from Terra had stayed on the board a little longer, you actually could have bullied me into doing whatever you wanted to secure your win. He basically said, do not be afraid to bully Magda. Just make sure that when you politic with a Magda player, you state exactly what you want them to grab out of their deck. If you're telling them to grab something out of their deck, tell them exactly what to grab, otherwise hold them hostage with a mayhem devil.
I agree with that. I like that. I wouldn't use the word bully because then some people get defensive. But I'm like, look, I'm not letting you get away with things. You're not pulling my chain.
You kind of have them on the
What's to
leash
say?
at that point. Like
Yeah,
hey,
I like that. Like, yeah, have a little
gonna
leash.
go my
I ain't trying to
way.
bully you. I want you to still be able to play the game, but respectfully, you got win on board. You're not winning this game, my guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love the way
That's just how Chris worded it, was bully Magda, which is hilarious because that's exactly what it is. It's basically, okay, you're on an iron leash. I'm going to pull the leash and make sure that you don't go any further than I let you.
Yep. Straight. I agree.
In terms with politicking, do you think it's easier for mid-range to politic or turbo? Because I've noticed that turbo decks, I've noticed that turbo decks focus more on, okay, I need to win as fast as possible. I cannot pay attention to what anyone else is doing. However, sometimes when they take their shot and they miss it, they try to politic after that and they kind of lose their steam.
I 100% think that is easier for mid-range decks to politic, even if it's a mid-range deck with turbo potential that can win fast with the right variables, the right mulligans. But it's very hard for a Rockside deck to politic me not to counter their turn 1 or turn 2 necropotents. Their deck is built to be able to win on the following turn, if not that turn exactly, depending on what's in their hand. There's not much that can be said. I use the line, I say this to people like, what are we talking about right now? You're a Rockside deck, you're trying to land them necropotents. I cannot stop anything after this. You hit the core spell. What are we talking about right here? But on the flip side, there's a turn 4 or 5 necropotents from, I'm gonna throw up some BS Esper deck. You know what I'm saying? They say I'm just trying to use it for mid-range value. Depending on where we are in the game, even though necropotence is still a super powerful spell, I may let it resolve because there's other things that variables I need to think about. So I think it's 100%. I will say though, in addition to that though, from my perspective, from my experience playing turbo decks, once I get stopped early game, I just enter into this place where I don't say, don't look at me. I just bring light to everything else that's going on. You know, if I'm going against a stacks deck like Tyam, I just make sure to bring emphasis to everything they have, not in an irritating way, but like, okay, like I'm just counting stuff on their end step. I'm counting stuff. I'm not even saying, look at them, they're the threat. No, I'm just saying like, okay, they got this many counters. All right, let's be careful, guys. They got 3 counters. Because at that point, even they try to flip it like, well, you a turbo. I'm like, bro, we're in turn 4. What turbo win coming? I can't even beat turbo anymore. We're in the mid game now. You know what I'm saying? My window is gone. I have to try to play a mid-range deck. I have to play a turbo deck as a mid-range deck. You know what I'm saying? And that's such a logical statement. At no time that I tell people all the time, stop saying, but you the threat. You're the threat. You know, like, yo, we all grown. You know, we are very intelligent people. Like, you know, we can communicate. We see the numbers. The numbers are right there on the board. So, like, I find that turbo decks do what you got to do. But if you, like, once you get stopped, that turn 2, turn 3 gets stopped, just chill. You ain't got to try to force nothing again. If you can go for another win, protect it on the next turn, cool, do what you got to do. But just sit back. You know, you don't have to antagonize the table to the point where now the mid-range decks, just every time you push, now they're getting more values off their smothering type, off their Aristic studies, off their Esper, off their Fish, to the point now that everyone is wasting interaction off you. You tried on turn 2 to win, you got stopped, just chill. Just chill and help people out when they miss stuff. Oh, check this out. It'll be like, oh wait, this person has this. Do you got anything, bro? I have 2 cards in hand. What are you talking about? I have nothing. What are you talking about? Because you're just waiting to top deck another piece of action. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's what I find, that turbo versus mid-range in the politics.
Yeah. That actually makes me want to circle back to what you said about politic tokens. Like, imagining that you have like 10 tokens or whatever for the whole game. You don't want to be like the turbo player that keeps pointing out specific things because you want to lay low and make sure that they don't think that you're the threat. That's kind of that token thing where it's like, okay, I'm just going to kill you because you're annoying.
It's sad to say, but yeah, some people will do that. Like, bro, you're just shut up, bro. Let me think. Like, yeah, some people will do that because, like, bro, like I can take you out the game and I will. Like, you're honestly like not just being annoying. I can't think. Like, there's like 4 smothering tiles on board, 8 Ristic studies. Like, let me think.
Yeah. And also, as one of the resident turbo players, we do have another one in our group. Mr. Dubs over here. As the resident Turbo player that plays Turbo Terra, Turbo Celis, Turbo Celisar, Turbo everything, I have definitely discovered that turns 2 through 3, the table starts talking about, oh, he's the problem. We need to get rid of him. And if they manage to stop my win on like turn 3, at least with Celisar and Celis right now, not necessarily Terra, because Terra's kind of a different beast on her own. She's consistently pushing for that win because she can just reanimate it out of the graveyard every single time. Celis and Celisar are kind of different in the respect of how they win. However, after that first win attempt gets stopped, they usually back off unless I say something. Which, that brings up the point of, you went for your window, wait for it to open again.
Yep.
Just don't say anything, just wait for it to open again.
100% agree. 100% agree. It'll come.
And in the games that I had tested Celisar in, I was actually doing a stream with Creators of Spice, great streaming channel, by the way. I was doing a stream with them, testing Celisar, and both games had a turn 2 ad nause that brought me down low enough that I died the next turn because I was not able to get the gas I needed to push through the win. But the fact that it consistently turn 2, turn 3 ad nause into potentially a win every single time that it's been tested so far is actually really interesting and has made me think about Celisar a lot. And I'm Mardu. I don't play Abzan very often. I have one green deck, and right now that's Celisar.
Right.
Should we transition into the casual tabletop competitive EDH? Because it's still cEDH, but the environment's a little more relaxed. There's nothing on the line or anything like that.
Start off with the table ones. Big part of table politics is make sure you follow through with your deals. Your friend ain't gonna let you forget.
Preach.
You break that deal with your friend, they're gonna be like, remember that last time? Ain't happening.
I can't never believe you again.
Nope. I was like, that's a big thing about politics. Like, in a tournament setting, yeah, you broke that thing, you're probably not going to get one for the rest of the game. If you match with another one of those players again, you probably won't get it there, but it's not going to be as detrimental as you breaking that with your friends at the table.
It gets a little nasty taste in your mouth. And if I can even just add on to what you're saying, like, I agree with you 100%. I think that kind of advocates for more just word choice is so huge. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause man, like there's so, like, cause what I find a lot in my experience when I'm doing pickup games of cEDH, like there's so many times where I'm asked direct questions and I take a second to make sure that my response doesn't put me in the situation where I'm lying. Because first of all, that's not within my character. But even on top of that, it's just like I'm going, especially if it's within my Discord, you know, Thunder Conductor Discord community. Check this out, link in the bio. But even if it's within my Discord community, I don't want these people who want to get to know me more to feel like, dang, I can't play with TTC because he's a liar. You know what I'm saying? I know he's a great politician, but lying, come on, dude, it's not that serious. But yeah, I 100% agree with you, Mike, there, because it's just like, those are your homies, those are your friends, those are people who admire you, those are people who want to get to know you, and we are trying to connect through this game, and it can get tough when now you got to have, it's not conversations on whether you king mate or spite played or didn't bring a viable deck. The conversations on integrity, and that's always a tough conversation to have because you can lose a friend over that. You can lose a potential friend in that. So I definitely agree with you 100%.
I definitely you said the magic word, integrity. Part of being a cEDH player versus a pub stomper is the integrity behind what you say and what you do.
Yes.
Most, if not all, I don't want to say all because some people that play cEDH do have that pub stomper mentality. However, most cEDH players will say, oh, you're playing at this point bracket 3, okay, cool, let me pull out my bracket 3 deck instead of my deck that's going to win turn 2 or 3.
Yep.
They will hold their word and play a deck that is lower power level than what they're used to, simply to be able to play the game. because at the end of the day, all of us are Magic the Gathering players. All of us love to play the game. We just want to have fun. So if your politics are shady and your integrity isn't withheld or isn't held up by what you say, people are going to look at you. You're going to get a reputation, and it's going to end up being one that's not very good for the future in like local game stores and such when it comes to you playing with other people.
You're just gonna develop a bad reputation, and that
Yeah.
will follow you everywhere.
Yeah, if I can even add on to that, just to bring things back to what I was saying earlier about word choice, like that's where I feel like that's what one thing I love about cEDH players, because there's such a thin line between like we all know this statement now. It's not even new because we're all in the Flash meta right now. But I'm not gonna win on my turn, dude. Dude, come on. We know you're not gonna win your turn. Well, obviously, you're holding up mana for Born Upon the Wind. Like we know you're not gonna win your turn. We're countering the spell right now, or we're engaging the table to communicate because we know you can win at any point, and this is our window to interact while you're locked in this whatever niche situation. Like that, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna speak to myself. I'm not gonna get mad at somebody if they say I'm not winning on my turn, dude. I'm about to pass, and then they go ahead and Born on my upkeep and beat me. I'm like, you know what? I love the way the command zone used to play it. To say it, I should have got better lawyers. You did say you weren't gonna win on your turn. You're 100% right, and you followed it. That's where I feel you didn't lie, and that's what I appreciate about cEDH players, because no matter how I'll use the word unique or evolved my communication gets, or any of my peers' communications gets, as long as we can sit down and say, you technically did say that. Yeah, you got me. Next time I'm gonna make sure I hold you to this XYZ 1 2 3. But it's just like that. That's for me. I appreciate that, and that's fun because I love to be better as a player. Like just me as TTC, I love to be like to every day just to get a little bit better in those situations where players who may be a little bit farther ahead than me, or players who just find unique ways to politic, get one on me. I'm like, I had one player say to me, I asked him, because I just early game, I'm like, I'm a combo player, so I'm not worried about doing damage to people. I'm like, hey bro, you play Adnaz or Necro? He said, yeah, those cards are bad. Later on, game turn 5 or 6, he plays Adnaz. I'm like, what happened? He said, I didn't say I didn't play them. I said they're bad cards. I definitely played them. I'm like,
Not wrong.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little salty, but I know better now. Because and like it like I understand, like I've had conversations with different communities, different brackets, where it's like, but that's kind of messed up. Like he said that's a bad card. It was implied what he meant. I said, I hear what was implied, but because we're playing to our outs, he needs his life total. And I know from this point on, for him and any other player, I can hold them to the exact words. No. I didn't ask you if you thought they were bad or not. Do you play the card in your deck? Because I don't need to do this damage if I don't need to. You know what I'm saying? And they will say, I'm not going to answer that. Okay, you do play it then. Turn it sideways, guys. He plays Negregor, Adnaz. Let's get him, guys. You know what I'm saying? But that only came that only came because I just said, you know what? You got me. Yeah, you got me. I'll know better for next time. And I felt a little salty in the moment, but I let it go because I knew it made me a better player from that experience I gained. And I appreciate that about the cEDH community.
Yeah, cEDH is definitely one of those formats where if you didn't know how to politic before, you're going to be able to sweet talk anyone into giving you the house.
Yeah, that's so real. That's so real, man. That's so real.
Yep. If you weren't able to sweet talk someone into giving you a penny, you're going to be able to sweet talk them into the house afterwards.
Yes, sir.
There are so many different ways that cEDH players politic into either winning states or draw states.
So with that, with that politicking of, trying to keep your word as well, how do you possibly take that and, like, hey, let's do, try to gain by following through with your politicking, gaining their trust for possible threat assessment, because sometimes you'll go to a tournament or you're even playing with friends and they're just getting into cEDH, they might not know what to look out for, and being able to properly share that threat assessment, but in a way that it's not like
sleazy,
overkill. Yeah.
Or malicious or manipulative.
Yeah, where you're like trying to target one person out just because. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
look, this is why. And as you had said before, with how you do it, is use that logic and be able to logically go, look, this is what he has. This is what is probably in his deck. Or if you were able to oppo agent when he went to go for a search, you're able to see everything in his deck and go, look,
Yeah.
this stuff is still in this deck. This is what I grabbed, and it kind of comes to that holding up a threat instead of stealing the combo because maybe you only saw one of the pieces, so you go, oh, the other one's in his hand, or oh, maybe I saw 2 or 3 ways for this thing to possibly, win. It's like, even if I grab this one piece, he can still win. Let me grab a counter spell instead, a free counter spell, a fierce, or if you're in blue, you can grab the Force of Will, you can grab the Force of Negation.
That actually brings up something from our last politic episode. Remember the game where I was playing Hashaton and you were playing around a Fierce Guardianship?
Yeah, we had to because somebody pulled your Fierce Guardianship out of your deck, and it's just like we're all now.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's win combo was like, well, this Fierce is stopping all of our win combos.
Yeah.
While Hashaton's just sitting there. Let me just discard stuff.
Here's the hilarious.
Benching through my deck.
Here's the hilarious thing about that. The guy that opposition agented me, because I had Radicast and I was abusing Mike's Archivist of Ogma.
Yeah.
I was
Forcing the
abusing the
search.
shit out of it. Because I had an OBM on board. So there was Kinnan, OBM, a Kinnan player, a Tivit player, Mike on Aragorn, me on Hashaton. I was using Radicast and OBM to hold the Kinnan player hostage because Archivist of Ogma is a force draw, so I can always kill whatever Kinnan was playing. Anyways, I searched up my win con, and when the Tivit player went to opposition agent me, I did a bunch of searches in response and grabbed my win con out so he couldn't grab it. And he was like, okay, I went through the deck list. I don't see any of his win cons in the deck. I'm grabbing a counterspell because we probably need that. That's exactly what happened. And I was not able to politic my way out of that one, which I've noticed is getting tougher with Hashaton, kind of like how you've assessed for your own.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna wait for that one because you all have I'm gonna wait on that. I want to talk about Hashaton specifically when it comes to commanders that you can't politic with, but I first want to bounce off what Icy Mike said. Because I think now than ever, I love the way Play to Win said it on a podcast that they had, where they talked about the fact that bracket 5 cEDH is now the game has acknowledged our community as a community. And I didn't think about this. There are people who may have just never known that this is the highest level to play the game. When you take all the there's feelings for human beings. When you take as much out feeling as possible to add in the logic, take the most highest logic plays so then we can play to our outs, it creates a really unique game experiences that I personally love. And to kind of bounce off what Icy Mike was bringing out, when you're playing with those new players, because there are going to be a bunch of them, I think that one thing that can help as you're helping people while still being able to play to win is change the objective of your politicking from I'm trying to get one over on them, or I'm just trying to manipulate them because they're green or whatever not, to I want to see the best game possible. I want to see the cleanest plays possible, because, and this is a challenge to the players who are great at politicking. What I find in my personal games is that when the best game possible is played, the best game possible, and everyone's playing cleanly, I take most of those wins because I challenge myself to say, because what happens is whenever I lose those games, I know it was because I had either user error, deck error, whatever not. It was an actual factual logical error, versus you flip on the backside, you maliciously manipulated a player. Now they have a nasty taste in the mouth. Everyone is sitting here with a nasty taste in the mouth. You lose the next 5 games because no one is hearing you talk, or no, like they can't hear the logic you're bringing to the table. Like, hey, Yuriko just has mystical tutored. They're casting a mystical tutor. You have 5 life. I have 10 life. He over there has 7 life. We're gonna die right here. If you have a counter spell, this is where we want to use it, because he's gonna put his Seagate of Restoration on top of his library, and I don't have any more counter magic or something like that. Communicating or even not, maybe not even revealing that you don't or do have a counter magic, saying this is a critical point to apply pressure here, because this is the moment where you want to interact. Because some players, like I hear some players are, when they're new, they're like, oh, I'm supposed to hold on my counter measure because that's what cEDH players do. No. We just know how to analyze threat. We know when to put it out there. We know what our deck is trying to do, and it's always an evolving skill set. But to bring it down full circle, it just makes you a better player, I find, by changing the objective of your politicking to, I just want to see the best, cleanest game possible. Because at that point, the only thing stopping you from winning is you and your deck, not people spite playing and king making and all that. Because if you can get people to like play at a higher level and you continue to grow as a person, your win rate will increase. I find that. And your politicking at that point increases as well. And people trust you, and you'll be like a TTC person where everyone knows I'm a politicker, but I still get away with my politicking. For some, I'm dumb. People are dumbfounded by the plays I get away with, because I'm like, my goal is not to get one over you. My goal is I want to see the cleanest game play it's possible. So there will be times I say, that's logical, I can't stop that, you can kill my commander, or that's logical, you can take my bowmasters, that's a good play. And I don't argue it, because it is a good play. You know what I'm saying? But then at times I question, I say, hey, look at your hand, look at all the variables you're working with, look at the board state. Is that really the best move possible? I don't know what's in your hand, but from what I'm just seeing on the board, it may be better to hold that removal spell for the 2 creature deck combo decks that we have at the table than to use it as sorcery speed on my creature, even though it may be scary. But do what's best, do what you think is best for you, leveraging the information that I don't have. I want to see the best game possible, win or lose. And I know I'm good enough to win when everyone plays at their best.
I like that. And I think you're really good at that, and I've seen you play, and I particularly love the way that you introduce the logical side to your benefit, because you take out the feelings aspect of feeling behind in a game.
100%.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of that, if anyone's wanting to see some of the stellar gameplay that Thunder Conductor has, we will be making sure that we have a link to his channel in the description below, as well as a link to his Discord. And he's got an awesome community that actually helped me myself grow as a cEDH player, because I took a 5-year hiatus from playing cEDH due to my play group being like, okay, you're getting to be a little bit like to play wallet against us because we don't have the cards you have. And our local meta is very anti-proxy, or was at the time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, brother.
So that's another very nice thing about the cEDH community as a whole, is it's actually growing more proxy friendly, to where people are playing against skill, not, oh, hey, you've been playing the game since 2001. I've been playing since 2024, and I only have a deck that I got because my dad gave me these cards.
Yeah, that's real, man. You please, so many people have that experience. Man.
That's one thing I'm changing in mine is getting proxies a little bit more okay, because before it was like, oh, if you're gonna proxy, it was like 5 or 10 minimum, so everybody was just stuck doing, I'm gonna just proxy my lands, and that's really all I can do. And it was very, very stale, because you have the cheap combos where you Thassus, so everybody and their mother was playing Thassus combos because the cards aren't on the expense end of
Yeah.
The combo itself costs like $40 to get all of the cards burdens off of the combo.
Literally tops at most.
And then you get the breach line, which it's like, okay, that one's like $600 because you need
you try to get an LED, be like,
well, we had that one guy that had the real one, and it was just like, oh.
But then are we playing, like, I mean, it feel like, at least for me, I'm like, I want to play against your mind, not your wallet. It's like, dang, like, you're the only one who could play Blue Farm because you own an LED, and dang it, man, I would love to see this guy be able to play it, because he just shows like a patient personality. He feel like he can really ascend up some really unique Jeskai or 5-color, or maybe like Sands Green breach lines, but he can't play in the building because he doesn't have a spare $1,000 or $600 for an LED. Man, that hurts my heart. You know, like, that player is like capped on their growth now. That's tough.
Definitely, because the whole thing about the community is it's supposed to be about inclusivity, and it's like, yeah, it's nice to own these really expensive old cards, but you're really stonewalling, newer players from getting into these higher tiered things. Is they could be really brilliant and be able to pilot these top tier, tier 1, tier 2 decks with ease, because they have that understanding and they're able to see the lines, but because maybe they work a minimum wage job because that's all they can afford to do, and they're going to school, you know, they have their own personal lives that take priority over their favorite hobby.
Yeah.
They're not able to compete, and, you know, not being able to play at the level that, you know, you feel that you have the capability to because you can't afford it, that shouldn't be an entryway block. Because kind of with what Noble said, where he took a 5-year hiatus because nobody wanted to play, you know, against what he had compared to, because they couldn't afford it. You know, instead of, you know, the community in his area was more, we don't have the ability to play at that level, and we're not going to proxy and keep up with you because you're able to afford it. You know, so instead of it being ostracized down, it was ostracized up because the community in the area was not able to keep up with the top player.
That's real.
Yeah.
And it's sad, man. But it's,
That actually highlights what I want to say about budget cEDH, is these competitive formats that limit your budget to $100, $200, $500 if you really want higher power. Not quite cEDH, but more comparable to cEDH than what most people can do with $100. These budget formats actually create that stepping stone to be able to get into cEDH, and it actually enlightens a lot of people and create play patterns that I've discovered with newer players that want to try cEDH out, but are afraid of like spending the money or proxying because anti-proxy, whatever. These players at those lower budget tiers for cEDH can actually make decks that, in my opinion, if piloted correctly, could stomp through cEDH decks.
Absolutely.
Like, a friend of mine actually made a Yuri deck, the commander that flings itself and deals damage. He's actually made one of those that, as of right now, I've been goldfishing the list on Moxfield and have tested it against a few playgroups. It has not lost a single game. And it is, and these are $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 decks facing off against a deck that comes up to the grand total cost of $87.
That's crazy.
It is.
Wow.
I think part of it has to do with the fact that I do politic a little bit differently than most people would expect when it comes to Commander. And I also specialize heavily in aristocrat strategy. If you look at every single deck of mine, there is one combo in them that you will not see me not play. And I can guarantee you that these two hosts of mine know what combo that is. It is Warren Soul Trader, Forsaken Miner, and Blood Artist.
He's a devout follower of the Blood Artist, I will say.
I'm not mad at you. I am not. I actually I haven't been playing it recently, but I built a Dina, the Golgari deck, and it leveraged Vengeful, whatever it was, the vampire, and also Blood Artist.
The 3-mana.
Yeah, thank you, Vengeful Blood
Blood Witch.
Yeah, oh my gosh, like there's Hulk piles, and man, it really showed me the power of like those Blood Artists. If you can cheat them in with a Hulk, or you can do some unique line where you take a 2-3 card line to just being a 1 card line, that shit's pretty fucking crazy. And they have so much now, like I said, with Vengeful Blood Witch and Blood Artist, they have so many copies of pretty much the copies of the same card, so you can run 2-3 copies. Me and Noble talked about the rule of 3. Like, if it is a type of effect you really, really consistently want to see, you can run those 3 effects to make sure you consistently see it once you have that draw engine on board, and you can see at least one of those effects each game. And man, like with the right brewing, those Blood Artist effects ain't no joke. You make yourself a little pile, you know what I'm saying? Forsaken Maya pile. Shit.
Yeah.
Don't play around.
Yeah. Well, you'll like that my Codus deck. I run that whole thing, and he's that little linchpin where it makes it a little bit easier to get that thing out, because all it takes is like, oh, I have the Warren Soul Trader, and they're like, well, you have no way to get the Forsaken Miner out, or you don't have any way to get the Grave Crawler out. You know what I mean? And it's like, now I can like, oh, well, look, watch me cast it, and now I can just infinitely just sit here and do it, because All it took was that initial cast to give me the mana.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
That's actually one thing that Salazar has enlightened me to, is she's a very great multi-Hulk deck. And when people are seeing the Hulk out, they're like, okay, what combo is he going for? Is he going for Samwise Gamgee, Cauldron Familiar with Therasphere? Or is he going for Forsaken Miner, War Infiltrator, Blood Artist? Or is he going for Forsaken Miner, or not Forsaken Miner, Gravecrawler, War Infiltrator, and Blood Artist? Or is he going for this? Which combo is he going for with that Hulk? Because if we kill that Hulk, we lose the game. That's the kind of conversation that Salazar has sparked when I get Hulk out, is if we kill the Hulk, we lose the game. If we let him cast his commander, we lose the game.
Yeah.
Because the commander enters the battlefield and kills the Hulk.
Right.
So how do we stop this?
Path or
Those
butt.
are the types of windows that create politic windows in my games. I like being the one that everyone has to try to stop, because it's like, okay, you guys all managed to stop the arch enemy. Let's see how fast I can win if you guys can't get me. That's my kind of mindset. I like the challenge that comes from being the threat, but I also politic around being the threat and try to deflect myself from being the threat in some ways. The most interesting way that I have actually caused someone to not kill my Protean Hulk recently was, he asked me, why shouldn't I kill your Hulk with Path to Exile? I said, because I have Pull to Eternity in my deck. I'll just pull the Hulk back out and do it again. He straight up didn't remove the Hulk.
Wow.
I told him I had Pull from Eternity in my deck, and I had a tutor
crazy.
So I could grab it. Yeah. So it straight up stopped him from removing the Hulk. He's like, I'm willing to concede if you guys are, because he says he has it. And the table conceded at that point. It was kind of interesting. And then I shoved in the deck, and they were like, wow, you have ways to make sure that Hulk goes off. And I said, yeah. Salazar is a dedicated Hulk deck.
I like that. I do, because especially with Hulk, I like, usually Pull from Eternity can sometimes feel, in my experience, it's felt a little like a little bit of a extra card. Like I've had conversations with really skilled brewers where like, do you want to run Pull, or should you rather just run another win con? So in case the event, say if your Breach gets exiled, you can just still go for Teferi Hidden and whatever not. You can always do other things. But one thing I found, what I love about your use of Pull from Eternity is, so because Pull from Eternity specifically pulls it from exile to the graveyard, as long as you have a way to cast Pull from Eternity and then just have another reanimation effect in hand, the same thing happens again. And I love that. I love that a lot, because sometimes in decks that try to run Pull, they just run it as like, in case this gets exiled, because they're so focused on a singular strategy, and they may just be better off just adding another win con. But I love how, like, if you're exclusively a Hulk deck, you really can just, like, I have so many reanimation effects, I have some of this. Pull from Eternity is just that good and that effective in doing whatever I'm trying to do. I actually like that. Very unique. Like that. It's nice.
There's actually another card in there that a lot of people don't realize is good for Hulk decks. Rick Sweeper.
Talk to me.
It takes the card from exile and scrubs it back into the library, so you can tutor it back out.
Oh, that's interesting. So if they get rid of one of the pieces that you search with Hulk, you can just do it again?
Yep. Yeah. Or if they get rid of Hulk, you just Rip Sweeper the Hulk back into your deck, and then you tutor for the Hulk again using Natural Order, killing the Rip Sweeper that you just tapped.
I hear that.
Or even activated sleeper as well.
Activated sleeper is some tech. That is some tech. That is like, if you're not in blue, that's a way to get a clone going.
Right there for Felithar. It's like, cool. You know, they kill the Protean. Right there's your double Protean. You know, that's a double Hulk tech right there for 3 mana, and it's flash.
Yes.
You know, it's like,
100.
you know, it's like, oh, they're gonna, do it. Maybe they try to stifle it. And you just, pop it right back in. There's definitely ways to get around it, and just if maybe somebody isn't aware of the deck, that's the nice thing about us brewing decks that are a little bit off of the meta, is you're able to kind of get a little bit deeper into those politics But if you're playing these, lack of a better term, a net deck, where it's the same deck every other player normally plays, and it's like, well, this is the tried and true, this is guaranteed to win because it's got a 63% win rate. Or, I think that's a little high, but it has a higher than average win rate, so this is the deck I'm going to play. Everybody knows that deck, which means
100%.
politics aren't going to be as strong as somebody that's playing maybe a deck that isn't as, or isn't as obviously scary,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
trying to pull us back into the politics that we're here for is the difficulty of politics really comes with your choice of deck, as well as because the choice of deck in and of itself, kind of going back to what you said of that hidden knowledge, that hidden information, tying that back in is you built this deck. This isn't a net deck. Maybe you pulled stuff from other decks, but the other people at the table, they don't know what you put in there. Now they're just sitting there constantly going, well, what if he has this? Maybe he has this. I don't know what he may or may not have because I've only seen this deck played once. Maybe you built it completely different than that other person that they've seen build it. And like a big one like people see is a newer one that I've been seeing start to crop up a little bit is Loot. The new Loot with the exhaust abilities from Aether Drift. Everybody's like, oh, that's just a food chain deck because that's the most prevalent use of it. But you go something else that doesn't do food chain, and they're sitting there waiting for the food chain, and it just never comes, and then you're like, oh, watch me sit here and let me just blink with this lightning bolt and Hullbreaker line, because they're not expecting a Hullbreaker line because that's really expensive for something like that. But you're sitting here just blinking non-creature with your Displacer. It's like, oh, let me play Displacer Hullbreaker and then just sit here and just blink it with my Mox. And it's not something they're expecting from it because they're like, well, you could just, and I've started every once in a while I'll still play my loot deck, and they're like, is this going to be a lightning bolt one? When I first played it, everybody's like, oh, it's just a food chain. Just, once you get rid of the food chain or this or that, you're fine. Just keep the commander under wraps and that's it. And it's like, play a Displacer and they're like, what are you going to blink? You're going to blink your commander? And it's like, I could. And instead I'm using it to blink haste thing, or I have something that gives something haste. And I'm like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's real. I think within that conversation, kind of going back to a commander Noble brought up that I absolutely was so bullish on, being Hashiton, is an example of a commander that,
speaking of difficult commander to politic with.
Yeah, it is the most. I do not think there's a more difficult commander to politic with. I mean, arguments can be made for other commanders, but the difficulty with Hashiton, the fact that it can win under split second protection, which only, literally the only way to beat that is to either have your own Hashiton to win while their split second is active, or if you run this blue foretell creature, you know what I'm saying, as a special action. I found it to be more attention than I wanted to as a natural politicker, as a natural communicator within cEDH. The way I built it, I realized very quickly how powerful, how high the ceiling was. And because the ceiling was so high, it could not survive in my pods, because people would have said, dude, if at any time you find a way, if you cast an LED or if you cast some other way to discard, you can go level of Thassa's. We still can't counter that unless we have a stifle effect. And we've already talked about those earlier. We don't see a lot of stifle effects. We don't see a lot of trick binds or the tail card or any of these cards very commonly within the meta. So it's already uncounterable. But then if you add split second, now there's nothing we can do. It's that commander that people have seen me not touch it ever since then. It has not been edited since a week or two after my video, because I accept it for my play style that Hashiton is just not the best. And I admire that Noble thrives within that, oh, you all think I'm the most threatening place, because for me it's I don't run from attention. I just bring light to the full table, including myself. I'm not afraid to say to somebody, oh, I admit, that I can see how that could be scary. Just don't forget about these variables as well on the table. But yeah, do what you got to do. That sounds like a logical play. Go ahead, thumbs up. You know what I'm saying? But on the flip side, Hashiton, what can I politic? Especially, please go watch the Hashiton gameplay video. I did a Tainted Pact on I was player 1. It was turn 4 on player 3's instep going to player 4, they had a Ristic study, they had a Thrasios, they did a Thrasios activation. I tainted packed. Politicked and said, I'm looking for a way to get rid of this Ristic study. Now, they didn't know my way to get rid of Ristic study was to win the game. But I was like, I'm going to look for a way to get rid of Ristic study. Tainted packed got rid of my entire library. Cast an Angel Grace, crack LED, Thassa's Oracle. No one could do anything. And the entire table, after we had the full the conversation, they all said we should have had a longer conversation about the Tainted Pact. Why did the Hashaton stay that long on the table? Now, granted, I had a counterspell to protect the Hashaton. Go watch the video. It's a great discussion after we played the game, but Hashaton is one of those commanders where it's like the ceiling is so high. That's why I feel like it sucks within the meta numbers wise, because people have to over respect it. It's not like Tymna where it's like, oh, we just have our blockers up, and like it's a really good commander. It's honestly one of the most powerful commanders, but the ceiling is high. The floor is still pretty high, but it's solid. It gets the job done. But with Hashaton, it's like, it's not, oh, he draws a couple cards. It's he wins the game. Or he puts such a powerful creature in play and we can't do shit about it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's why he's been suffering within the meta and why a lot of people just stop giving attention. Most people just don't have that resiliency like Noble has to say, I thrive when you all think I'm the threat. That's when I really show up. And so that's why I want to say I admire that from you, Noble. But yeah, I shelved Hashaton because it's too threatening, bro. I can't politic with that deck because I know my opponents are right, and I'm not gonna lie. It's like, you're right. Remove the Hashaton. You're 100% right. I'm casting LED. I can win it anytime now.
I've even been seeing that with Ketramos as well. It's gotten a lot of like with.
Oh, that's such a good deck.
You had it was a few weeks ago with Brad over at High Ground.
Yeah.
He came up with, I love his Ketramos deck. I even took it and tried making it into a dual commander deck because I don't know if you've ever heard of with dual commander. It's taken over that format too. It's in the top 8 of all the decks. It's doing work. It's a little bit different, but I was like, let me see if Brad's theory works in this 1v1 meta. And it's like, well, Ketramos is obviously doing, and it's getting respect, not just in commander. It's getting respect outside of regular, commander and CEDH. So it's but with being in CEDH, it's like everybody's starting to see it. Him and Hashaton were like the nameplate of Aether Drift. They got 100%. So much love from it that now they're hated. They hit the table and they're like,
too good.
Anything that does is a problem.
Because Ketramos is a little less because this has a similar thing like of Tymna where the thing is they draw cards. But the thing is Tymna has Tymna has a cap to number of cards they can draw in one turn unless you do multiple combats. But Tymna players are not doing multiple combats. They're saying I'm drawing 4 cards per turn, including my draw for turn. You know what I'm saying? Ketramos says I can draw as many cards as I want as long as I find a way to get up my life total. And then even on top of that, you have Hashaton to say, oh, I'm not just trying to draw cards. I'm Esper good stuff, and I can win the game, and you can't counter it. It's just like, what do you do?
Yeah. But definitely with like some of these newer commanders, you're kind of like, well, everybody knows what it does, and because it's the hot thing for everybody to talk about, now there's the Deadpool card. Everybody's like, oh, how can I break this?
There has to be some way to break that card.
100%.
And that'd be some there's good ideas out. There's been some very good ideas out, but there is some card from 1962. I know that's Magic wasn't out, but there's some random card. I'm sure goes a 1-card combo with that. It's changing the text box, y'all. This has to be broken more than we're even seeing. But I digress.
Well, with like the layers, I've been seeing a lot of people touching on how the rulings are because there's a special ruling specifically for this card. It messes with layers, and it's like if you don't understand the super nitty gritty rules, which a lot of players don't.
Yeah, if I can even add on top of that, that's kind of the conversation where I'll use the scariest card in the format, Ristic Study. It is the card of commanders, or not even just CEDH. It is the most powerful card, honestly, because it attacks the axis of what we're trying to do, which is cast spells most times. Unless you're Sisay or Magda, forget you guys. Y'all suck. I'm just playing. Y'all are awesome. But that is, I've had so many different conversations around Ristic Study, and it's not black and white. There are times where you counter the Ristic Study. There's times when you let it go and you have a counter spell for it. There are times where you say, what turn is it coming down? turn 1 on the play Ristic Study, if I have force negation or force will or a mind break trap that you turned online, I'm hitting that shit. But if it's turn 4, I'm sitting here, I'm getting ready to win on my turn, and you play a Ristic Study because you want to get back into the game, however people like to say it, I'm not going to hit that with a counter spell because I'm trying to protect my win. And the 2 or 3 cards that you draw in the process of me trying to land my silence effect are irrelevant. I feel like people need to open their eyes more within their threat analysis, but in addition to that, not open your eyes, but open your mind, Total Recall reference, but it's just a thing at the end of the day, just really just take the time to be like, okay, when I'm threat analyzing and in conjunction with it, politicking, is this like when I'm guiding players or like kind of communicating or politicking, it's the thing where I'm like, hey, it's turn 5. I know Ristic Study is scary, but this player has this, and you only have 1 mana open. You have 3 cards in hand. If you have a counter spell, I think we should hold it. But it's Ristic Study. It's the scariest. I'm like, I hear you. I'm telling you right now, I have nothing.
Yeah.
So you are the only one who can do something. And maybe that player who's not giving us any information, they turn out to have 1 additional counter spell. But it's a niche counter spell or something. It's a dispel or some shit.
Yeah.
So they can't lead the counter on the Grand Abolisher. Your force in the gate or your force of will is the only thing to do it. And because you pitched it on, you just had this heuristic. I keep mispronouncing that word, but you had this heuristic in head, that Ristic Study counter. That's where I think politicking really comes in, because it opens people's minds. Like, oh yeah, I see where you're coming from, TDC. So I'm not saying we got to remove it eventually, but it's turn 5. We all got mana. Just pay for Ristic Study. It's just a stacks piece. It's not a scary spell. It's just a stacks piece. Just let's play a little bit slower. They just make sure they don't draw any cards. Let's make sure we just position ourselves to not lose to the Grand Abolisher or whatever else they may be coming down, because they just got done. We know they have a Vampiric Tutor for whatever known reason that we know that information now, and they're set up. Graveyard is stacked. Everything. Brain Freeze, LED's already in there. But we just need to have a way to stop it, and they obviously are going to go get a Grand Abolisher. That's when we fight. That's when we push, But that conversation only happened if we embrace that politicking as part of our format, and then we show through that embrasure of what politicking is, it allows us to level up our threat analysis as well. But bringing things full circle a little bit.
To kind of go into an addition on that, speaking of threat assessment, there's a certain group of people that are notoriously not very good at it when they're going from a 60 card format to a multiplayer format, because they want to learn how to play Commander.
Right.
What do we do to help them learn and benefit, or learn the benefits of politicking as newer CEDH?
Where they're going from one competitive to another.
Yeah. Honestly, I can tell you the answer. Let them make the mistake, because experience is the best teacher. And leverage the power of the post-game conversation.
100%.
Do not bully them into. What I see sometimes happens is you have the logical conversation with them, and it doesn't work. They still do it because whatever not. Let them make the mistake. That's where, like when I said this earlier, but I say all the politicking, I say, but I respect whatever you decision do. I'm not saying that to make you feel good. I'm saying that because I actually do. Because this one game doesn't define me. That's why some people say it's just a game. Some people are saying to me, it's just a game, get over it. No, to TTC, it's just a game. This singular game of all the CEDH games I'm going to play and have played, this one game doesn't define me as a CEDH player, as a content creator, or as a human being. So I'm not going to let this one piss me off. But we're going to talk about it after the game. I had that happen to me today, where I was in a game testing out my team at deck. Check it out. We'll be doing a deck tech soon on it. Shameless plug, but the guy had a bit of a king-making situation where he played Miram, that 3-mana creature that makes everybody, no one can draw. Then for the draw step, they lose 3 life and search their library. And he integrated it into the point of the game where it was clear as day that he couldn't win, but me or the other dude could win, and then I just lost the turnover. And then at the time, I wasn't sure where his head at, but I didn't want to start beating up on him. I was like, okay, in my head, I said, I'll talk to him after the game, because maybe he has a reasoning that I don't know about, and I can learn from this. I came from a place of humility. So after the game, I talked to him about the dude, as he cast the Miriam, past turn, silence. He was playing Marnie's, played silence, used the Miram tutor to go get demonic consultation. He already had the Beseech Mirror in hand. That's just 4 black and 1 colorless. That's Stasis with Beseech, demonic consultation with the ETB on the stack, under silence. We could do nothing. They knew I had nothing but dragons in hand, and the dude had no cards again. And so I asked Masters, and at first he was coming off logic. He said, yeah, I want to cut off his draw, but also I just wanted to do just like, I couldn't do anything. I just wanted to take an action. I was like, really? We're playing. I broke it down, cEDH, what it means to play your outs and all these other things. And after this conversation, after me really breaking them down, like, hey, for me, I'm just going to count this as a draw because this is obviously, it was all a misunderstanding. It's no big deal, but you're going to negatively impact other people who come to play this format with the expectation that you're not going to king make, that you're not going to spike play, and you're going to bring a viable deck and come with that mindset that you want to play to win. You know what I'm saying? Now, the viability of deck can be a loose conversation. We could talk about it another time. But when you do take an action, just to take action because you're saying, I want to have fun, and me taking 3 turns off and not taking any game actions, well, that is a reflection upon yourself and your deck. You got your turn 2 Ristic Study countered, and now your deck crumbled. You are running a Miram. What other card could you switch out with that? Because it was a whole cascade of things. He casted it twice. First time it got removed when another player played the Oppo. It was just all these things, but the point I'm trying to make is that the post-game conversation is what I leveraged to talk to that player, that he could have been a 60 card player looking for a chill, competitive environment within cEDH, or it could have just been a player who's on that bell curve of piece by piece, I'm learning how to become a better player and how, like cEDH player. But you got to let people make these mistakes, because they will, like, we know when, like, for example, it's turn 5. There's 3 Ristic Studies on board and a Smothering Tithe. The new player says, I'm going to try to win here. And without any sound effect, they just start putting their weight on the stack, triggering all the Ristic Studies. And then the experienced player says, hey, stop. You're starting a problem that you don't know. You're like, people are going to try to born upon the win and all these other things. And they say, but I got the win. I want to try to win. They're like, hey, just wait and But they say, no, I'm going to do it. Don't get mad at them and curse them out because they don't know any better. Let them experience it, because that's how we learned it. We got to experience what it was like to lose under Valley Flood Collar and Board Upon the Wind and all these other crazy combos. Let them experience it. Okay, I lost the game, but this person's a better player. And when I play the next game with them, not only will they want to play a game with me because I wasn't a dick to them, excuse my language, not only will they want to play the game with me because I wasn't coarse and mean with them, they'll be a better player and a better experience for myself because I leveraged the post-game conversation.
Yeah. Instead of the Rule 0 conversation, have the Rule 100 conversation.
Yes. I love the way you said that. Yes. Rule 100. Don't leave the table without reflecting at the game with the pod.
Yep. That's one thing that a lot of these newer players don't realize is 1 versus 1, totally different environment than 1 versus 3. Yep. Because in reality, it's not actually truly 1 versus 3. It's sometimes 2 versus 2. Sometimes it's 3 versus you. Sometimes it's legitimately you and 2 other players are trying to stop 1 person all in the same stack war.
Yep.
There's so many different dynamics, and it's such a different environment that I actually agree. Let them make the mistakes and then teach them afterwards. Okay, this is the mistake that you made. This is how you can potentially do it better, or do a better job of making sure that this doesn't happen next time.
Yes.
That's actually a very good and insightful way to have newer cEDH players learn the game, is let them make their mistakes, let them learn from it, but still teach them either after they've made the mistake, even in that same turn, because some people still try to do that. They'll explain, okay, this is why that was a mistake. Like, they'll use the fact that you were feeding the Ristic Study. They'll show you, hey, I got the way to stop your win. This is why you shouldn't push into Ristic Study or Smothering Tide or whatever card.
One of the many drawings.
Show you, this is how I can stop you.
Right.
And then they stop you.
Yeah. Like, look at the card I just drew. I just took it off. You just drew me a Force of Will. You can't stop this because we know you have no interaction because you couldn't stop the last person. So I'm stopping you, but this was a mistake, but you'll know better next time. type shit. So yeah, excuse me.
Yep. Just like how I learned on my second time trying to add Nob the Belisar, stop at the Protean Hulk. Don't push for further interaction after the Protean Hulk, because if you already revealed that you have 2 silence effects in a Protean Hulk, they're probably not going to stop. I got greedy and ended up going way past the Protean Hulk and got myself down to 3 life with an OBM on the board. That was my own mistake. I didn't figure it out for myself. And then the Praetors of Spice were like, hey, anyone got a way to draw 3 cards on not their turn? And it's like, well, I guess you guys got me because I screwed up myself.
Yeah, that's real.
That was a very good learning experience.
I love it. It sounds like a great learning experience.
But I feel like this is definitely a good place for us to kind of wrap it up here with if there's anything you want to add real quick before we end this.
100%. I just wanted to say thank you all for having me on. This is one of the most passionate subjects that you all ever have me on, more than any commander, more than even the format itself. Communication. We call it politicking, but that's all it is, communication. And if you're interested in seeing some forms of this, please check out my channel, Thunder Conductor, no space between the R and C, on both YouTube and Twitch. Where in our post-game conversations, we talk both about the words we chose to use, when we chose to use them, but one thing that I uniquely talk about is also about the tone. What was your tone and what was your intention? Because those things also shift the politic, and that, but granted, that's more high level. But as you continue to ascend as a politiker, like, how do I get past just, well, I said what you said, TTC, but I didn't get the same output. Well, what were you thinking about when you were saying it? Oh, okay, you were trying to manipulate them. They felt that energy. They felt that. So let's shift that energy and let's see what happens next time. You know, there's always a way. Never give up. So thank you all for having me on. This was actually a fantastic vibe and conversation. I enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks again for coming around, and hopefully we can get a nice, good couple games here and show these politics and these points that we've brought up here, and show them off in some games in the near future.
Yes, sir. Let's make it happen.
So from here, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Ring that YouTube notification bell. Make sure you check out Thunder Conductor's channel. His link will be in the description below. Keep your brews strong, your plays sharper, and your games legendary. Until next time, may your decks be aged to perfection.